Watching football is amazing. Watching Champions League football is even double amazing. And when you combine that with fantasy football, it makes it triple interesting. So if you're a new manager, if you're a new fantasy football manager and you've never played Champions League fantasy before, this is the video for you, as we will be taking a look at how to play UCL fantasy. So we will be going through how to pick your squad, how many players you pick for your squad, how many players you are allowed for your squad. We'll also be talking about substitutions. It's very different from FPL. We'll also be talking about the transfers, how many are allowed per week, deadlines, chips, the wild card, the limitless chip, all of that, scoring points, and the league. So all that and more coming up. Let's get started with the match days. There are 13 match days in total, 6 in the group stage and another 7 in the knockout stage. So 2 legs in the round of 16, 2 legs in the quarterfinal, 2 legs in the semi-final and the final. As they go on to say, every match day except the final is split over more than one day, usually Tuesday and Wednesday. Each match day, once the first days have finished, you can sub or switch your captain. That means that if any of your starting players doesn't score as many points as you would have liked, you can sub them off for a player on your bench who might score you more points later that match day. By making changes within a match day, you have the chance to score more points for that match day. We will be taking a look at that very, very soon. In terms of picking your squad, it's just like FPL. You're allowed 15 players. When you create your team, you'll have to pick a team name. As usual, you can edit your team name later on. To get started, you'll need to pick a squad of 15 players, 2 goalkeepers, 5 defenders, 5 midfielders, 3 forwards. So if you already played FPL, that is normal. In fantasy football, you're also allowed 100 million, but the difference in Champions League fantasy is when we get to the knockout stage, that rises to 105 million because of the player prices changing and also players becoming more expensive. Basically, the bigger teams proceed to the round of 16 quarterfinals, so players become more expensive and the cheaper players are eliminated. Basically, number of players per club, you are allowed 3 players per club in the group stage. You're allowed 4 players in the round of 16, 5 players in the quarterfinals, 6 players in the semifinals, and 8 players, a maximum of 8 players from one team in the final. If any of your players is transferred to another Champions League club during the season, they'll stay in your squad. However, if that player takes you over the player limit for a given club, you'll have to transfer them out the next time you make transfers. So if the season or the round of 16 gets started, or let's say the round of 16 gets started and you already have 3 players from Liverpool and then a player from Bayern Munich moves to Liverpool, that makes it a player that you already had from Bayern Munich moves to Liverpool, that makes it 4 players that you have from Liverpool. So for the next match day, you'll have to transfer out one of the Liverpool players for you to play that match day, basically. If any of your players are knocked out of the Champions League, they'll stay in your squad and you can keep them there for the rest of the season if you want. However, once they're out of the competition, they won't score you any more points. In terms of managing your squad, for each match day throughout the competition, you'll need to select 11 starting players from your 15-player squad. All your match day points will be scored by players in your starting 11 and not the 11 players who start the match day in your team, but those that finish the match day in your team. For every match day except match day 13, you'll be able to sub players in and out depending on their performances, with the aim of ending the match day with the highest scoring 11 players from your squad in your 11. So in terms of subs, I'll just tell you about the subs before I get into the substitutions. So usually, especially for the goalkeepers, you need to pick a goalkeeper who plays on a Tuesday and another goalkeeper who plays on a Wednesday. So if the goalkeeper who plays on the Tuesday scores like 1 point, you can just sub them off that Tuesday night or that Wednesday morning and bring in your goalkeeper from the bench, the one who's playing on the Wednesday. So you're actually allowed to switch players in the middle of the match day. So if you have a player playing on Tuesday and you have them on the bench, you cannot bring them on unless it's an automatic sub and you don't make any manual subs and one of your player doesn't play in your squad, and then the player on your bench can automatically be subbed on. That's the only way you can get players from your bench from a player who has already played. But if you want the correct way to do it is to have all the players playing on Tuesday in your starting lineup, and then if they don't score any points, you can just bring in the players you have on the bench if they're playing on the Wednesday. So if on one of your players scores 1 point, you can just sub them off and bring in the player who's on your bench if you feel like they're going to score more than 1 point or more than 2 points or whatever it is. That's the best way to do it. But it really depends on which teams are playing on which days. It's great to mix it up, have a couple of players playing on Tuesday and other players playing on Wednesday. It definitely gives you the chance to maximize your total number of points. The normal person who doesn't really check after making the squad on Tuesday can get 70 points, but you can get up to 80 points if you use your bench correctly and if you're active that Tuesday night and Wednesday morning. If any of your starting players don't play that match, they'll be automatically replaced by your substitutions as long as formation rules aren't broken. So you have to have a goalkeeper, you have to have at least 3 defenders and all that. Have a look at the substitution section for more information. In terms of formations, your team can line up in any formation as long as you've picked 1 goalkeeper, at least 3 defenders, at least 2 midfielders, and at least 1 forward. In terms of selecting a captain, every time you save your captain, you'll need to pick a captain for your starting 11. That player's points will be doubled for that match day. Another thing about switching your players on the Tuesday and the Wednesday, you can also change your captain. So first, you need to have if Lewandowski is playing on the Wednesday and Salah is playing on the Tuesday, you need to captain Salah. And then if Salah doesn't benefit you or doesn't score as many points as you'd like, you can change the captain to the player who's playing on the Wednesday. So just make sure to check that. Let's say Lewandowski plays on Tuesday and De Bruyne plays on Wednesday. Make sure not to captain De Bruyne who's playing on the Wednesday and just leave Lewandowski, because the ones who captain Lewandowski that day and he scores 40 points and De Bruyne the next day gets you 10 points, you have the chance of having Lewandowski in your team. And usually if your captain scores more than 8 points, there's no need of changing the captain at all. That's my rules, but we'll talk about that as well. This gives you the chance to double the score of a different player and you'll do better. However, bear in mind that if you aren't happy with your new captain score, you won't be able to change back, and you can't ever select a captain who's already played in that match day. So you can change your captain to a player who's playing on Wednesday, not a player who's already played on that Tuesday. If your captain doesn't play on a particular match day and you haven't made any manual changes during the match day, your captain will automatically be subbed out. However, his replacement would get the double points bonus. If your captain doesn't play in a match day where you've made other subs, your captain won't be subbed out. In terms of substitutions, between match days, you can make as many subs within your squad as you like, as we've talked about. After all matches on a single day are finished and before the next match is within that match day kickoff, you can sub out maximum of 4 players unless they've been sent off. So if one of your players has been sent off on the Tuesday and has like a -1, -2, you can't really sub them out. Even if they had scored a goal and then got a red card and they had like 2 or 3 points, you can't really take them off for another player who's on the bench. You can only take them out if they didn't get a red card, and replace them with any of your substitutes whose teams are yet to play within that match day. Any players that you sub out will score 0 points for that match day. Change your captain to another player from your squad whose team is yet to play. Your original captain's double points will be lost and your new captain's score for that match day will be doubled. You can't sub players into your starting 11 or change to a captain who have already played in that match day. You also can't, once you confirm your subs or change the captain, those changes cannot be reversed. So if you change your captain to Lewandowski from Lewandowski to Salah on Wednesday, you can't change back to Lewandowski if you change your mind. Once the matches on the final day of the match day have kicked off, you can't make changes to your team. Any changes you make will only be applied to the next match day. The good thing with Champions League Fantasy as well, you get to see the team news before the deadline hits. So it's not like FPL where 90 minutes before the deadline, your team has to be ready and you don't really get to see the team news. For Champions League, it's different. You actually get to see the team news before the deadline hits, so you can make a few changes, especially in match day 1. You'll need to save your changes before the match day kicks off for them to take effect. In terms of automatic subs, applies as always, just like in FPL and any other fantasy game that you play. If your player doesn't play and you have a player on the bench, it'll just come on automatically. But the automatic subs will not be made if you've already made a manual sub. So if you took out your goalkeeper and brought in another goalkeeper, automatic subs cannot be made for you. You'll have to make them manually that Tuesday night or that Wednesday morning. In terms of transfers, transferring players in and out of your squad helps you get more points through the season. Before the Champions League kicks off, you can make as many transfers as you like as long as you stay within the budget. You can also make as many transfers as you like between the group stage and the round of 16. Throughout the competition, you get free transfers each match day where no points will be deducted from your score. So in terms of how many transfers you're allowed per match day, in terms of before the group stage, you can make as many subs as you like before the game starts. In terms of during the group stage, you can make 2 transfers per match day. Before the round of 16, it's unlimited. Before the round of 16 second leg, you can make 3 transfers. Before the quarterfinal, you can make 5 transfers. Before the second leg of the quarterfinal, you can make 3. Before the semi-final, you can also make 5. Before the semi-final second leg, you can make 3. And before the final, you can make 5. During the group stage, if you don't use your transfers between match days, you'll only be able to carry 1 forward to the next match day, meaning you can't stockpile free transfers over several rounds. So basically, just like FPL, if you have 2 transfers for match day 2 and you don't use them, if you go to match day 3, you'll only have 3 transfers. You can't carry 2 and then add the other 2 and then you have 4 transfers. No, you can only carry over 1 transfer. So if you feel like you don't need that transfer, try and use 1 transfer and then you can carry over the next one. If you feel like you don't need to use both of them, you can use at least 1 and then carry 1 over, because if you don't transfer players at all that match day, you're going to lose 1 transfer basically. So you need to at least use it somewhere. If you use a wildcard or limitless chip, then no free transfers get carried forward. And once the knockout stage starts, you can't carry any free transfers forward between match days. So after the knockout stage or after the group stage, you cannot carry transfers at all. You have to use them. In terms of player prizes will stay the same until the match day 2 deadline. For match day 3 onwards, some player prices will be adjusted based on their performances in the previous games. Prizes will keep changing throughout the season depending on how many points they score. In terms of deadlines, as I said, you get to see the teams before the deadline hits. So in match day 1, 6:45 CET, Tuesday 13 December, 6:45 for match day 2. But for that, we'll always be coming live before the match day deadline, so no worries about that. Just subscribe and you'll be able to see that. In terms of the chips gives you the opportunity to change your squad and score more points. You get 2 chips which you can play once each throughout the competition. Chips can be played on any match day except match day 1 and match day 7, round of 16 first leg, when everyone automatically gets unlimited transfers. So you have 1 wildcard and you have 1 limitless chip. Unlimited transfers, yes, for both. A limited budget, yes, for the limitless, but no for the wildcard. You still have to stick within the 100 million. And in terms of the teams resets 1 match day is over, wildcard, no. And the limitless, yes. So you get to keep the team that you've just wildcarded. But if you play a limitless chip in match day 2, in match day 3, you get back your team from match day 1. So we'll talk about this in a different video. So the link will be in the description and that one is out. In terms of the wildcard and the limitless, we will go into detail in that one. In terms of scoring points, as usual, when your player scores, but in the Champions League, it's there's a couple of additional aspects in that. So if you score a goal from outside the box, your player gets 1 extra point. In terms of ball recoveries, if you get 3 balls recovered in 1 game, you get 1 extra point for that. So there are some players who are very good at that. So like in FPL, you don't really want players like N'Golo Kante and players like that who play in defensive midfield. But in the Champions League, they can actually benefit here and they can actually score more points than even strikers because of the balls recovered. So we will talk about that in detail as well in a different video. Player of the match award, if your player are just like bonus points, your player gets player of the match, gets 3 points. If a player wins a penalty, they get 2 extra points. If a player concedes a penalty, they get a -1 in terms of that. Missing a penalty -2, and the rest of it is basically the same as any other fantasy football game. So points are calculated within 3 hours of the final whistle of the last match day, so you get to see your team there. And then in terms of assists, as usual, clean sheets, your player gets 4 points. Player of the match award, red cards as usual, you get minus in terms of points. Extra time and penalties, players will keep scoring points throughout extra time. However, players who play 120 minutes can't get double appearance or clean sheet points. So if a match goes to penalties, no points will be scored during the shootout. In terms of the leagues, as always, you can create your private league and join public leagues, and that is available. The link will be in the description for that. So those are all the rules. I'll do one in terms of the wildcard and the limitless chip and break it down further, when you're supposed to be using those chips, should you be carrying them over to the knockout stage, all that and more. So hopefully you've enjoyed the video. Hopefully if you're new, hopefully you've gotten a few details that you didn't know about. All this is in the Champions League website. You can go and read them for yourself. In case you don't understand, you can just come back to this video and hear what I explained about that. Thank you for watching, guys, and I'll catch up with you guys on the next one.